move up in seniority, get closer to seat power. I'll probably end up
Good evening. This is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, and I want to welcome you all and thank you for being here for the governing body regular session meeting. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Dunn is present and presiding. Councilmember Phila.
Here.
Councilmember Rawlings.
Here.
Councilmember Sipple.
Here.
Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Azeltine.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison. Here. Councilmember Osman.
Here.
And Councilmember Larson.
All right, thank you. We have a very impressive group of scouts here this evening to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Scouts from Troop 10 and from Troop 6010, and there could be some others that I'm not aware of. But after we do the pledge, I would like each and every one of you scouts to please come to the podium, introduce yourselves, let us know your troop and your scout rank, if you would. So now, as you're able, please rise as they present the colors.
May everyone place their hand over their heart. Scouts salute. May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Would you like to lead the introductions?
My name is Jocelyn Maurer. I am a Life Scout in Troop 10.
My name is Kara Parrott. I am in Troop 6010 and I'm an Eagle Scout.
Thank you so much.
My name is Matthew Gonzalez, and I'm a Tenderfoot Scout.
Thank you.
My name's Adam Putoff, and I'm a Life Scout.
My name's Konstantinos, and I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 10.
My name is William Kleinsorgi, and I am a Star Scout from Troop 10.
My name is Evan Wiedemann, and I am a Tenderfoot Scout from Troop 10.
My name is Alex Sollers. I'm first class, and I'm from Troop 333.
Thank you.
I'm Emily Hussey. I'm from Troop 6010, and I'm a second class.
I'm Eliana Jong. I'm from Troop 6010, and I am first class.
My name is Ryan Kwan. I am from Troop 10, and I'm an Eagle Scout.
I am Noah Eberhardt, and I am a Scout Rank Scout.
I am Stephen Kaiser, and I am a first class Scout.
My name is Cameron Kleinsorgi, and I am a Star Scout in Troop 10.
I'm Xander Pierce, and I'm a Star Scout in Troop 10.
My name's Izzy Meliazzo, and I'm a Life Scout in Troop 6010.
My name is Allison Kwan. I'm from Troop 6010, and I'm a Life Scout.
My name is Louis Mondry, and I'm a Tenderfoot in Troop 10.
My name is Kaushal Bandari, and I'm a Scout Rank Scout from Troop 10.
My name is Donovan Shannon, and I'm a Star Scout in Troop 10.
My name is Jake Jersh, and I'm a Star Scout in Troop 10.
Did we get everyone?
Yep.
Well, this is so nice, and I want to thank the scout leaders, thank you, and the parents who brought all of you, and we greatly appreciate it. And I want to wish all those of you on the road to Eagle best of luck. Thank you so much. You may retire the colors. Thank you. We used to have every meeting begin with the pledge led by the Scouts, and then COVID came.
Yeah.
So it's very, very nice to have you all here. Thank you so much. The next item is the approval of the agenda. I have no modifications to the agenda that I know of.
Move
If
for approval.
there are none.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Rawlings, second from Mr. Sipple. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. The next item is presentations, recognitions, and 4A is acceptance of a donation to the police and fire departments from the Cloisters Homes Association. Is the HOA president, Terry Woodbury, here in the audience? I know he was planning to be here, but I have not seen him. This is a annual donation taken up by the residents in the Cloisters. It's always to be split evenly between the police and the fire departments. And this year, it was almost $4,000 when he hand-delivered it to me just before the holidays. He wanted to be here in person just to let all of us know that he is going to challenge other HOAs to do the same. And Chief Finger and Chief Fitzgerald, I'm not seeing Chief Fitzgerald, is he in the room too? I'm not sure if it will definitely be split by the police and fire, but it could be. So it's for services rendered and services needed. So thank you for doing a great job in explaining the use of the funds on an annual basis, because I know that makes a difference. So I would like to entertain a motion to accept this very generous donation.
Move for acceptance.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Rawlings, second from Mr. Hazeltine. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. And he has received letters acknowledging and letters of appreciation from both chiefs and myself. Going now to 5, old business, update on the 2024 renewal of property, liability insurance, and additional coverages. Mr. Powell?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. James Charlesworth from Charlesworth Consulting is also here tonight in case the governing body has any questions for him. But since December 18th, Mr. Charlesworth has been negotiating with travelers on the city's behalf, and as stated in the packet memo, he was able to come to some negotiations by moving various deductibles and other line items within the program. And when we reviewed that with him, we were not comfortable with those changes and the additional risk that could have been put on the city by making those changes. And so what we're recommending tonight is that the governing body ratify the coverage limits and the amounts that were provided to you on December 18th. In the amount of $613,629. And then that will provide coverage for 2024. And during 2024, we will work with Mr. Charlesworth on several program design options and other options related to our liability insurance program, and bring that back to you probably sometime in the late summer.
All right, thank you. Mr. Charlesworth, would you like to address us? Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, James Charlesworth, Charlesworth Consulting, 1828 Walnut Street, Suite 701, Kansas City, Missouri. Mr. Fowle pretty much summed it up. We turned over every rock we could. We found some savings, but the risk just outweighed the potential savings. So our focus is switched to what next year we can do. We've had a strategy meeting already, and so we will continue to work on those strategies throughout the year, bring them back to you well before the renewal process so that we can make sure the governing body is fully informed.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your extra efforts in these last couple of weeks, so thank you. There is no action needed at this time, or is there, since we took action on the 18th?
Yeah, you took action on the 18th, and so this would just be acknowledgement of the quote that we received from travelers in that amount.
All right, so I'll
Motion
entertain
to-
a motion to that.
Yeah, it would probably not hurt just for the record to do a motion and a vote.
All right. Motion from Ms. Phila, was there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rawlings. Now discussion, Mr. Asseltine and Mr. Sippel.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you, I mean, this is a stunning increase. I've never seen anything like it. 30%. I mean, that's insane. Could you explain what is going, and just for edification purposes of folks that don't know, we put out requests for proposals for our property and liability insurance coverage, and we got one response. And it's Mr. Chatsworth, who's a consultant in the insurance industry. Could you explain market-wise what is going on in the property and casualty industry to where they're not even, bidding on these types of things?
It's been a difficult year for a lot of cities. Cities are extremely complex compared to a typical business. You think about police and fire, public works, your full-service cities that have sewer, wastewater. Each are unique, and just insurance companies are having a hard time coming to grips with all the risk. If you compile that with, on the property side, natural disasters, hurricanes, wildfires, with liability judgments that we're seeing, nuclear verdicts, social engineering, where these influences are what would be a $30,000 judgment turns into a $3 million judgment. And insurance companies are losing money, and they're not in the business of losing money. So everybody takes the brunt of it. Unfortunately, your losses haven't been a problem. There's nothing that the city can do, have done differently to get better results. Our broker is Arthur J. Gallagher, the third largest broker in the world. They have access to all the markets. We trust that they've done everything they can do. So now we have to look at it differently. We might have to look at it different than just a standard insurance product. And that's what we're going to be doing this next year, to try to find a way of shifting some of the costs, taking on maybe some more risk, taking some of those savings, putting them into a reserve fund, city monies, that if we don't spend them in losses, they stay your money, and we can control and manage our destiny a little bit more.
So almost a form of self-insurance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a better question for you or Diane. Has there been any effort, like on the pension side, we've got CAPERS, and for the fire and police, we've got this Northeast Kansas thing. Has there been any efforts on the parts of cities or counties to band together to create some scale that would?
Yes, sir. The last hard market was in 1986, and so that was even before I started in '89. At that time, a lot of these pools or associational trusts were formed. There is one that handles some risk in Missouri and in Kansas. It's called Midwest Public Risk. We did talk to them about joining their pool, and they declined. They're getting a lot of people wanting to join, and they're a little overwhelmed. So that is going to be a possibility. One of our neighboring cities who I represent has approached me about maybe starting our own pool and banding together with some of the larger cities and doing it ourselves. So that's one of the options that we are looking for going forward.
I have a question for Diane. Is this appropriate?
Sure.
You've been very active in the National Association of Counties, Cities and Counties. Has there been any movement on this type of thing for cities and/or counties to band together to create some economies of scale?
Councilmember Asseltine, I'm not familiar with that, but as Mr. Charlesworth pointed out, I mean, there's some action in our area that are small activities, but on any kind of large scale, I'm not aware of any such discussion. But But as I understand it, again, as Mr. Charlesworth said, there's been a lot of challenges with other cities, and I think in businesses and that kind of thing, looking at these kind of insurance issues over the past year.
And these are all regulated by states, so it has to be Kansas entities.
Right.
And so our opportunity of pooling is somewhat finite.
Yeah, and just again, for the public's edification, I mean, this is, again, a staggering increase. And I can tell you that in my 36 years, I'm a financial advisor and I'm also insurance licensed. I've never seen anything like this.
It's, be happy you're not in Texas.
So
It's a lot worse there.
yeah, it sounds like we maybe need some reform in our judicial system. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Sipple.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. I think Councilmember Hazeltine asked several of the questions that I was interested in, but the one thing that caused me some pause in this whole thing was not getting any competitive bids. And as a member of the public and as representing the people in Leawood, only getting one bid, you're not really assuring the citizens that we're getting a very good deal. So as you work on your strategy for '24, I hope you can get us 2 or 3 or more bids so we can make sure that we get a fair deal. A single bid, a take it or leave it from Travelers or whoever, that is an embarrassment for me. So
It is for me, too. Competition is a great thing, and I like having plenty of competition. I think as we look at new strategies, maybe building a more self-insured program, there are more insurers that are interested in that design of program. What we are now is we're considered first dollar insurance, and just nobody's in it right now besides the pools. So I think if we do explore taking on more risk in a smart, thoughtful way, we will have more competition.
Well, I would ask one thing for you and for the senior staff at the city is you could give us a status report, maybe mid-year, around the 4th of July, as to how it's going, what things you see on the horizon. That'd be very helpful for me.
Absolutely. I have a big renewal coming up on April 1st. That'll give me an idea what the January 1 reinsurance is doing. And yeah, we will definitely be back in front of you in the middle of the year, letting you know what's going on, what our plans are, and what our strategies are, and then taking advice from you as well.
Well, we look forward to your efforts being successful.
Me too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? We do have a motion and a second. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Charlesworth,
Thank you.
for being here. Okay, moving to 6, recognition of retiring city council members. And I actually have some things I would like to say about these council members. And do you, Mr. Powell, have something for me to hand them afterwards?
I do.
You do? Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go by order of least tenure. So if you would like to get something for Councilmember Osman.
How's it feel to be least tenure?
Actually, it's 14 years, and that's not very less or little.
Ricky.
Is that a compliment or?
The junior guy.
Maybe, Mr. Osmond, you ought to come over here and stand by me when I talk about you. All right, first I'm going to say some things before I give you your little plaque. So, Councilmember Osman, Andrew Osman, received his MBA from UMKC after graduating from Indiana University with a degree in business. He is the owner and the president of his own real estate firm, ARO Real Estate. He and his wife, Deborah Fetter, are parents to two teenagers, Izzy and Elliot. And I know you're going to introduce them shortly. Andrew was sworn in as a Ward 1 City Council member on April 19th, 2010. He has chaired both the Public Works Committee and the Gezer Sister City Committee. He has also served on the Budget and Finance Committee, the Economic Development Council, and is a past member of the board of the Leawood Foundation. He's a member of the Leawood Chamber of Commerce and a proud graduate of the Leawood Citizens Police Academy. And Andrew always provided great perspective on the developers' keen eyes on any project that ever came before us. And you were invaluable and will be missed. And I'd like to give you this outstanding service recognition presented to Andrew Osmond in recognition of dedicated service as Ward 1 council member from 2010 to 2024. Because of your service, Leawood is a strong community with a bright future. Thank you. Andrew is also getting a key to the city, and we have yet to find out if this opens anything, and we doubt that it does. However, it's always fun to get it, so. And then from Patty Bennett, this has, I think, the thumb drive from the slideshow at the reception that the city hosted for us. So you will not want to lose this. And a city flag that you can put this with your Public Works sign that has your. Oh, wonderful. And the canvas. And I'm going to let you have the microphone. Can I sit over? Yes, you can sit there.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Some might say that one thing for certain is that things always change. After 14 years of taking office, I can affirmatively agree. When I first ran, my friends thought I was crazy by suggesting I needed a Facebook group. And now social media is part of our local and political discussion. Conducting municipal business is the process of citizen comments is still relatively the same, yet we now live in a world that often encourages abandoning civility and bringing the discussion out of the room directly under the chat boards and other platforms, where often only part of the story is told, but yet not understood or shared. My hope for our future on this council is that we come back together for a better conversation and discourse that believes in civility and raising dialogue. Being part of this council has been a great privilege, one that was filled with complicated conversations and disagreements, yet filled with a governing of civility and the common understanding of a goal of doing what's best for our city. My hope for our city and society is that we find a way to let our new channels of communication enhance the discussion rather than distract and disrupt. My hope is that we continue to evolve and understand each other rather than just to disagree and divide our community. To the entire Leawood Municipal Organization, thank you for your dedication and commitment to supporting this council. For my constituents, those who believed in asking great questions and joining discussion, and for my friends and family who supported my commitment to the city, my sincerest gratitude. To Mayor Dunn, congratulations on your retirement, and my sincerest appreciation for your dedication to the community. Your leadership is a model for what other cities strive to achieve. To my fellow council members, while sometimes we disagreed, the various opinions discussed around the diocese during council were always respectful and ultimately enlightening. Thank you for making my position an enjoyable experience, and look forward to continuing our friendship and our conversations well after. To my parents, Steve and Susan Osmond, early in life, politics were not part of the family dinner table conversation because I had a difference of opinion from the rest of the family. Yet, you instilled a core set of personal values which are often lacking with politicians. Although you're on Zoom this evening, your presence is with me. To my kids, Elliot and Izzy, there were times over the course of your life where I placed public commitment ahead of family needs. Monday night family dinners were missed, and late night meetings ran well past your bedtime routine. Given my absence, you always wanted to find out how things were the next morning, and for that, I truly am appreciative. To my wife, Deb, I recognize this journey was not filled with roses or butterflies, let alone the entertainment of a talking dog named Clarence. When I decided to run for council, in retrospect, it was probably not the best choice from a timing standpoint. You were in the midst of a flourishing professional career, president of a philanthropic organization, mother to a phenomenal 2- and 4-year-old at the time, and caregiver to your mother, Harriet Fetter. Adding a campaign to this mix was a cherry on the top of something you definitely did not need to do. Yet you sacrificed a great deal to allow me to pursue this aspiration in my life. Thank you for being there throughout this journey. I love you. Thank you for the past 14 years. It's been an honor and privilege to serve the city of Leawood. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want them to come forward? Thank you very much, Mr. Osmond.
They're out of there.
In fact, they're leaving.
Teenagers.
All right. Next, I'm going to ask Councilmember Asseltine to come over, please. Since he's only had 18 years of service. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to read a few things about you before I hand you this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In advance.
So James Asseltine was elected to the Leawood City Council in 2006. Prior to this, he served 3 years on the Planning Commission and 8 years as a citizen appointee on the city's Budget and Finance Committee. During his term on the council, James served on the Stormwater and Public Works Committees and is a former chairman of both. James is proud to be the charter liaison to the Leawood Economic Development Commission. In addition to the EDC, he currently serves as council liaison to the Leawood Arts Council and the Leawood Foundation. James contributed to bringing the mixed-use development concept to Johnson County and is particularly proud of the successes of Park Place and Mission Farms. He is proud to have served on the council when Leawood was awarded its AAA credit bond rating, one of only 2 cities in the state of Kansas to achieve this rating at that time. Over the years, James has served on the boards of several organizations outside of Leawood, including the Johnson County Parks and Recreation District, the Greater Kansas City Area Development Corporation, Harvesters, Safe Home, and the Blue Valley Education Foundation. James and his wife Debbie moved to Leawood in 1993 and have 3 adult children, Alicia, Alan, and Andrea. James is an executive director in the private client division of Oppenheimer and Company in their Mission Farms office. So he not only lives in Leawood, but he works in Leawood. And he's kept a keen eye on the financials that come before us at every meeting, including this evening. So thank you for that. Outstanding service recognition presented to James Azeltine in recognition of dedicated service as Ward 4 Council Member 2006 to 2024. Because of your service, Leawood is a strong community with a bright future. And I thank you so much. Let me give you your key that you're going to find out what it's worth. There's that. And your thumb drive from Patty, and your flag for the city of Leawood, as well as your canvas.
My goodness, wow.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do what Andrew did.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the coolest thing about retiring after all these years is that I've gotten so many goodies over the last few weeks, and that's been nice. It has been one of the great honors of my life and a privilege to serve on this governing body. When I think of Leawood, I think of excellence. And when I first ran for this office 18 years ago, I genuinely did not plan on serving more than one term. And I ended up sticking around because it's not often that you get the opportunity to be a part of something excellent. And it's very gratifying. And I'm very proud to serve with all of my colleagues up here. That's you too, Mary. To a person, good, capable people that love their community and do their very best to do the right thing. We didn't always agree what the right thing was, but everybody up here has tried to do that. I'm very proud of the teamwork and civility, as Councilmember Osmond alluded to. You know, over the years, you have some contentious debates, but when it was over, no matter how contentious the debate. And I give you, Mayor Dunn, a tremendous amount of credit for that, for setting the tone. Because without that, I mean, I've run a lot of meetings in my life, and I know how quickly they can go downhill if the person running the meeting doesn't do the right thing. Very proud of the focus that Leawood has demonstrated through the years to stick to our knitting. You know, blocking and tackling, if you're a sports fan, you know, Public Works, Parks and Rec, things that the city has direct control over, and not drifting into issues like I've seen a lot of other cities do, and many times controversial issues that we really do not have jurisdiction over. So proud of that. I'm super proud of our staff. You know, up here you can set the policy, you can set the tone, but it doesn't mean very much if you can't execute. And Diane, you and your staff have done an excellent job of making our job, or making my job, so much easier over the years. So these things have made Leawood, I believe, one of the premier cities in the country of its size. And none of this would be possible for me, and no one in this room deserves more credit from me than my lovely wife, Debbie, who is here with us. And, you know, the love, the patience, the understanding of all my endeavors when we started. You know, we had 3 school-age kids in 3 different buildings. And so she has a really good sense of humor. So, but just very gratified to have been able to have the privilege to sit up here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now, I think you need to stand even though you're sitting next to me. Thank you. So this is recognition of 25 years of service for Councilmember Jim Rawlings. Jim Rawlings was sworn in as a Ward 2 council member on April 17th, 1999, and has served on the city's Budget and Finance Committee, the Historic Commission, the Elon Sister City Committee, the Public Works Committee, the Iron Horse Golf Course Advisory Board, the Economic Development Council, the Justice Center Art Task Force, and has chaired the Stormwater Management Committee. Jim is also a graduate of the second class of the Leawood Citizen Police Academy. Jim Rawlings worked in human resources for TWA and for United Missouri Bank, UMB, for a total of 50 years. He is the father of 2, and he and his wife Susie share 5 grandchildren. He has been a Leawood resident for a total of 59 years and was a founding member of the Leawood Rotary Club in 1995. So for outstanding service recognition presented to Jim Rawlings in recognition of dedicated service as Ward 2 council member 1999 to 2024. Because of your service, Leawood is a strong community with a bright future. And I would like to thank you for sitting on my right all these years and being my right arm and always offering sage advice. You've been just wonderful.
Thank you.
And I have other things for you too. Hopefully these strings are long enough to go over everybody's head. There you go, that and your thumb drive and your city flag and your canvas.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. All right. Do you want to
I'll say
speak
it.
from the chair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess sitting next to the mirror, my left ear now is going to be relaxed from now on. I want to echo what Andrew and James have talked about the city. It's been an honor and a privilege. Little did I know that I would be on the council for 25 years. I decided to run based on an encouragement from an individual that was a fellow Rotarian, and I decided to run, and by golly, I won. I did not anticipate that. I didn't even know at the time that we were eligible for a salary of $500 gross a month, which came out to about $7.80 an hour by the time and I think my very first meeting, city council, went into the next morning from 7:30 till like 1:15, which was amazing. I thought, what did I get myself into? But anyway, as a council member, I am leaving. I am so pleased that the city is going to remain in good hands with new council members that have been elected, the city administrator who was recently hired in January, and most importantly, a new leader as far as the council is concerned with Mark Elkins. I think the city is going to be in excellent hands, and I feel good about that. And especially, I am pleased to recognize my person who is taking over Ward 2, Sherry Guyad. And Sherry, when you come to the bench, I'm going to leave this up for you. It's passing the baton to you. So this is for you. I'll leave it up here. And last, my lovely wife, Susan, who has put up with late nights with me coming home, waking her up sometimes. But she always asked the next morning, how did council go and what was new? And so that made me feel good about that. She helped in my election. I knocked on 1,300 doors. The last 100 she helped, so I could say I tried to hit every door. So anyway, thank you so much to everybody, and I'm going to miss this job. But I'll be looking for another part-time job somewhere. Thank you.
Well, we are now moving to the swearing in, Mr. Powell, is that correct? All right. And as you're swearing them in, do you want those of us vacating seats to come down so our seats are empty? Yes. All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I guess I'll leave this for the next person.
I need more hands.
Get out of here.
A little slow on the uptake here.
Okay, I'll now start the swearing-in ceremony, and I'm going to start with the council member from Ward 1, Mr. Alan Sunkel.
Steven, these guys should move in, right?
Okay, you have your oath there, so you'll just repeat after me. You can raise your right hand. I, Alan Sunkel, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of Ward 1 Council
of Ward 1 Council Member
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. You're official. You're welcome. And you can take a seat wherever you like. Okay, next is Sherry Guyed, representing Ward 2. All right. You'll just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Sherry Guyed, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of Ward 2 Council Member
and faithfully discharge the duties of Ward 2 Council Member
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Okay, you're official. You're welcome. You can take a seat. next is Lisa Harrison, returning to represent Ward 3. So you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Lisa Harrison,
I, Lisa Harrison,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of council member Ward 3
and faithfully discharge the duties of Ward 3 council member
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, and next up is Dr. Stephen Castor, representing Ward 4. And if you'll just raise your right hand and repeat after me. That's right. I, Stephen Castor,
I, Stephen Castor,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of Ward 4 council member
and faithfully discharge the duties of Ward 4 council member
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can take a seat wherever you like. All right. And then if you all want to introduce any family or friends that you have in the audience or make any remarks, now would be a good time to do that if you want to.
Recognize my daughter and my wife, Mara and Mary Lou, in the second row, and a friend, Mike Sikora, who came down from Prairie Village to see us. So, I too am honored to have been chosen by the residents of Ward 1 to represent them, and I will do so in accordance with the oath I just took.
Very good. I'd like to thank my son Davis and my husband Tim for being here, and to echo the comments of my wise fellow council members who said it takes a family to do this, because you do miss a lot of Monday nights, and you're not always yourself the next day when the meeting goes till midnight. You're sometimes a cranky mom. So I appreciate their patience and understanding as I served my neighbors.
I'd like to recognize my parents, Roger and Diane Castor, and my wife, Catherine, and my daughter, Ellen. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, and after we're done with the swearing-in ceremony, we'll do a recess so we can do pictures out in the lobby.
Great.
Okay. The last person to swear in today is Mr. Mark Elkins, who will be our mayor. Just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mark E. Elkins,
I, Mark E. Elkins,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
and faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
for the city of Leawood, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. You are official, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I guess I don't really get a choice about where to sit, huh? Well, thank you, Stephen. I'm truly humbled by the opportunity that the citizens of Leawood have given me to serve them and our city. This opportunity to serve is truly a highlight for me that I never imagined would be afforded to me. First, however, I want to thank my family for joining me on this very special occasion. My mother, Arlene Elkins, from Manhattan, Kansas, together with my sisters, Marcia from Rapid City, South Dakota, and Michelle, also from Manhattan. I'm also joined tonight by my son, Jeff, and his wife, Sarah, who have supported me throughout this whole unanticipated adventure, and my daughter, Jenny Hauser, who plans so many of our events. Finally, I want to recognize my wife and best friend, Jana, who refused to permit me any slacking during the campaign, and whom I'm sure will continue to crack the whip now that I have a job to do. To our extraordinary city staff, thanks in advance for your patience with me in these first few weeks as we both learn what it's like to have a new mayor for the first time in a quarter of a century. To the City Council, both incumbents and newly installed members, thanks for stepping up to serve our community. Many of you know that I find that the words of Theodore Roosevelt truly capture the essence of servant leadership when he spoke of the person in the arena whose face is marred by dust and sweat and who strives valiantly and repeatedly in a worthy cause. What many don't recall, however, is that the title of Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech was actually Citizenship in a Republic. You and your service, as Roosevelt recognized, are the essence of citizen leadership in our democracy. Together, we will build consensus on the things upon which we agree and find compromise on those issues in which our reasonable minds will disagree. Most importantly, to the citizens of Leawood, I pledge to bring the best that I have every day to the office of the mayor. The best interest of our community as a whole will always be my pole star, and in leading every discussion and making every decision. I will make myself available to hear your concerns and understand your perspectives. I am sure that there will be times when you are disappointed with an outcome we on the governing body reach. But I truly hope that you will always be confident that every decision, even those with which you may disagree, will be made with the best intent after careful and open-minded consideration. So with that, I think that it's time for us all to go to work.
Okay, I'll now...
So as a point of personal privilege to start with, probably a bad thing for a chairman to start, but I'll start with a point of personal privilege. I want to take just a few minutes to recognize the person that has been leading our efforts here for so long. How do you recognize a person who has served our city and our community for over a third of our city's existence? How do you begin to measure the impact of a person who had dedicated herself to our collective benefit every day for the last 31 years? Well, one way is to take a trip down memory lane and remind ourselves of where Leawood was when Peggy Dunn first began her incredible journey of servant leadership with where we are today. When Peggy first joined the City Council, Leawood's population included almost 22,000 residents. Today, we are a city of nearly 34,000 engaged citizens. As we've grown under Peggy's leadership, our community has become much more diverse. In 1993, 2.4% of our community identified as non-white. Today, nearly 13% identify themselves in that manner. Similarly, the average of our residents was 40 years when Peggy started. Today, our average age is almost 51 years old, as demonstrated by the gray hair I see in front of me tonight. Our growth in numbers has been matched by our community's prosperity. In 1933, the average per capita income was $43,000. As Peggy departs City Hall, Leawood's per capita income is $171,000. Similarly, the average value of a home in Leawood in 1993 was $250,000, where today the average home value is $636,000. But it's important to note that the vision that Peggy and our other city leaders, including the 3 city council members that leave us tonight, was not limited to growing a diverse population. It also included evolving our community from simply a collection of homes to include a vibrant business environment as well. In 1993, Leawood had either constructed or was constructing 11 commercial real estate developments. Today, there are 34 commercial centers approved in the city. The square footage of commercial developments has grown from 1.5 million square feet to 8.5 million square feet. These numbers cannot be denied. Our city has grown in a remarkable manner over the last 30 years of Peggy's leadership. Beyond these numbers, however, Peggy's vision of Leawood and that of our community leaders, including those who leave us tonight, has given us a true downtown that never existed before. Today, we stand on what only a few short years ago was a wheat farm and a horse pasture. From those humble beginnings, we now have a civic center that includes our city hall, our city offices, our public library, and a vibrant commercial and public district that brings shoppers from all across the metro to our stores and restaurants. But numbers, of course, don't tell the whole story. For most of Peggy's tenure, our slogan was growing with distinction. Thanks again to Peggy's vision and that of the other civic leaders with whom she has served, our growth has been more than just numbers. Today, we have a park and trail system that is to be envied by other Johnson County communities, including an expanded city park, Elon Park, Gezer Park, and Iron Horse Park. And as a person who grew up in a part of Kansas where trees came at a premium, I will be forever grateful to Leawood's commitment to preserve our trees. Moreover, Peggy's leadership has helped us create a community that recognizes the value of the arts to the fabric of our city, as we have developed a collection of public sculptures that is unmatched among the metro Kansas City suburbs, and we continue to support the performing arts with the Leawood Stage Company. This strategic vision, led by Peggy, has truly added the distinction to our growth as a city and as a community. I would be remiss, however, if I left this recognition with merely recounting the many accomplishments of the city of the 30 years of Peggy's service. While those accomplishments are extraordinary, even more striking is the grace with which Peggy has dedicated herself to our well-being. Peggy knows no strangers. Her quick smile always puts a new acquaintance at ease, and her memory of always remembering about what you, your spouse, and your family are doing has always been a hallmark of her leadership. So now it's left to us all to continue the work that Peggy has started for us. Thank you seems like too little an accolade for all that she has done. But we want to express our gratitude as a city to the extraordinary legacy of service that Peggy leaves us with. So, as my first official act as mayor of the city of Leawood, it is my deep honor to issue the following proclamation to my friend and mentor, Peggy Dunn. Stephen? Peggy, you always have your proclamees come up to the podium.
How many of these has she handed out?
It's the first time she's been there as a citizen in 31 years. So
You'd like to introduce yourself
Yes.
for the record? State your
if
name
you
and
state your
address.
name and address for the record, Ms. Dunn, we would be grateful.
Seriously?
Seriously. I'm a stickler for
Please
records.
speak into the microphone.
Peggy Dunn, 11400 Cambridge Road, Leawood, Kansas.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Whereas Peggy J. Dunn was sworn in as mayor of the city of Leawood in 1997 after serving as a Leawood City Council member for 4 years, her last term as mayor will end January 2, 2024. And whereas during her 31 years of service to the city of Leawood, Mayor Dunn played a key role in the city's growth and development, which was intentionally planned and deliberately unhurried to create a beautiful, lasting, and inclusive community. And whereas Mayor Dunn has also led the way for the growth and expansion of various public facilities, including new fire stations, police headquarters, municipal court parks, and public works maintenance shop, Ironwoods Park, Iron Horse Golf Club, and the reimagined Leawood Aquatic Center, just to name a few. And whereas Mayor Dunn's vision for the Leawood community has resulted in a community district that incorporates public buildings and commercial centers that the city of Leawood can rightly and proudly call a downtown. And whereas millions of dollars have been invested in the city's infrastructure, under Mayor Dunn's leadership, which has resulted in better roads and pavement conditions, decreased flooding in neighborhoods, expanded walkability and bike lanes throughout the city, and a world-class public art collection. And whereas Mayor Dunn has worked diligently to create and embed lasting community connections with residents, business leaders, faith leaders, volunteers, and others, forming the foundation for the city's continuing success. And whereas Mayor Dunn was instrumental in continuing a close relationship with one of Leawood's sister cities, Ilan, Taiwan, and in 2003, Mayor Dunn and Mayor Peter Weiss of the Gezer region of Israel simultaneously signed a resolution of agreement for Leawood and the Gezer region to become sister cities. And whereas Leawood is a strong and distinctive community with a bright future thanks to the leadership, hard work, unwavering dedication, and sincere love Mayor Dunn has for the city of Leawood. Now, therefore, I, Mark E. Elkins, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, do hereby proclaim January 3, 2024 as Peggy J. Dunn Day in Leawood, Kansas, and sincerely thank Mayor Peggy J. Dunn for the many years of servant leadership she has provided and for the strong foundation that she has helped our city to achieve. And just as with our other council members, here's your thumb drive, your mini crock, your flag of the city of Leawood with a brand new logo that we put together. So thank you so much. And your gap. I got one of my own. Thank you so much.
Well, my goodness, I'm rather speechless. Beautiful memory lane, Mayor Elkins. I didn't even remember some of those details. So thank you for that. And I want to say that when I was recruited in 1993 to run for the Leawood City Council, I never anticipated a journey like this. It's been so incredibly rewarding, enjoyable, fulfilling, just remarkable. And, you know, I've talked about the outgoing council members, but I also want to mention Julie and Lisa and Deborah and Chuck and Mary, and how wonderful it's been to work with all of you and how much you will be missed. And I trust our friendship is deeper than this and will continue. And just as those leaving talked about their families, I want to mention my husband, Terry, who's back here. There could be no more supportive spouse anywhere than he has been. And it's been probably longer than he thought it might be. And we've all joked about those late night meetings, but there are too many of them that go till the next day. And it is hard to have folks in your household stay asleep when you come home that late. I also want to say council members prior are also deeply held close to my heart, and we've had many of those over the years. Also, the volunteer force and strength, and I see many of our volunteers here in the audience, and certainly Alice and Mel Hawk are two key. But we have planning commissioners, and we've got commissions, advisory boards, councils and committees that give so generously of their time and talent, and have many of them for many, many years, hundreds of them. And I want to recognize those current and former. I also want to talk about our terrific staff, which many of you have already done. Diane Stoddard and her team of department heads, but all of our professionals. And certainly they're the current group, but Scott Lambers and others that came before all of you have been just stellar. And I can't say enough about them, but they are really what has driven the progress and the growth. And then finally, I want to say how really good I feel about the hands that Leawood is in today. Mayor Elkins, you and your fellow city council members, you all as a governing body, I could not be more thrilled and more proud to leave the city of Leawood in your hands. And if this can just be my 15-second state of the city, since I won't be giving one this year, you're in great financial state at the moment. The infrastructure is outstanding. And now we just want to see these services continue on and be just as great next year as they are right now, because that's what we're delivering to you. So no pressure. But thank you for agreeing to serve. Thank all of you, and Sherry and Alan and Steve, thank you for agreeing to run and serve our wonderful community. I will always be a resident of Leawood. I don't plan to ever live anywhere else. And it has been an unbelievable honor for me to be in this position. And so I thank you all very, very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dunn, spoken as a truly engaged resident and citizen. We're grateful. Mr. Powell, is this the time for us to take a recess?
Yes, I will need to do the roll call of the new governing body, though.
When we come back, will
We
you
can
want to
do
do the
that
roll
right
call?
now, if that's okay.
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 Please call the roll.
Okay, Mayor Elkins is present and presiding. Councilmember Phila.
Here.
Councilmember Sunkel.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Guyad.
Here.
Councilmember Sippel.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Castor.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Is there a motion to adjourn for a period of about 10 to 15 minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Villa. Thank you, Ms. Kane. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and we will stand in recess. Thank you all for being here. All right, the commission, old habits die very slowly. The council will come to order. Mr. Powell, have all the members of the commission seated been sworn?
Yes.
Great, then I find that a quorum is present. We'll move on to the remainder of the business this evening. The next item on the agenda is item number 10, citizen comments. Our former number 1 citizen was the only citizen to sign up tonight, and she has spoken and shared her thoughts with us, and we're grateful for them. So those were the only ones who signed up, so we'll go to the consent agenda. I understand that there may be one or more items that need to be pulled from the agenda. Commissioner Filla? Are you needing to pull something from the consent agenda?
No, I do not.
You do not?
It's been answered.
Okay. Councilmember Sippel.
Thank you. I would like to pull item A and item M.
A and M.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any others? Sorry, it would take me a while.
Councilwoman-
Councilperson Kane.
J and M as well, please.
J and M. Okay. Any others? If not, is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Filla. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Sippel. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda with the exceptions of items A, J, and M, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda with those exceptions noted is approved. We'll go to item number A, which is accept appropriation ordinance numbers 2023 through 50 and 2023-51 and supporting documentation.
Thank you, Mayor Elkins. I would like to recuse myself from voting on item A. My wife is listed as a payee. She's a contract employee for the Parks Department and has been for several years, and I always recuse myself when her name is listed in the checks that have been written. So I need to recuse on that item.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Sippel. Thank you, Ms. Filla. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is any discussion? All those in favor of approving item A from the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item A is approved. Takes us to item J.
Yes.
Ms. Kane.
Mayor Elkins, and I'm going to have to get used to saying that myself. In reading this, I do know that conducting a citizen survey was one of our goals, stated near-time goals. I didn't realize that it was a goal to do it every 2 years. As I'm reading this, and I know we're getting a new website, I know we're initiating, Liz is in the room, I know we're initiating some kind of new newsletter, I know we're expanding our reach to other HOAs. It just occurs to me right now that perhaps with these new vehicles, our new website and our new newsletter and stuff like that, that there are ways that our citizens can weigh in on many of the items that were listed on this. And it would be my recommendation, and I'm only one person, rather, because we're in this transition period of the website and everything else, that maybe we hold off on this. Maybe we educate our citizens on how they can already, address a pothole or address a feeling, the things like the police service's feeling of safety. There's already a method in place to do that. So as I was reading through this, in lieu of spending the $23,000 this year, it occurred to me that perhaps we should do some education with the new website and the vehicles that we already have in place for a lot of this, and maybe postpone this to the following year. That was just my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Comments, Ms. Stoddard?
Appreciate the comments from the councilwoman. I think that one benefit of this will be, once we get the survey results back, is The outreach efforts that you're speaking of and the communication efforts that we're doing will really be targeted at the entire community. But one thing that a survey like this does, because it will be a scientific survey, it will really give within a very short margin of error a great picture for you all in a scientific manner to understand what the temperature of the residents are regarding a number of issues. And those issues will be benchmarked with other communities in our region that do the same survey and basically ask the same questions. And one thing that will give you is we all know that some people are very active and some people really participate and we hear a lot from them. But there are people that are more quiet. We don't hear perhaps from them as much, and a survey like this will really enable the entire community to be surveyed. You have a very good understanding, again, within a very small margin of error, how the community feels about a variety of services. So I would say there's a lot of value to this. There may not be as much value, or one of the things that we may look at is the interval for a survey, but I would recommend going ahead and doing it because I think that it may help inform where you all want to go strategically and where you want to look at in terms of goals, because it will enable you to see the surveys that are the programs and the services that the residents are seeing as very highly valued, and maybe some that aren't as much, or there's not as much satisfaction with some things. And I think that may be very powerful for you all as an information piece. Certainly only one of many pieces of information that you all receive as an elected official, but one that's rather important.
So I understand the statistically valid survey is 400 residents, and we have 32,000. So not 32,000 households, but 32,000 residents, give or take some. So do I understand then how many people are going to receive this survey so that we truly do get a snapshot, or is it going to be open to the general public? Because to me, again, when we haven't done this many times in my 15-year tenure, it's not inexpensive. $23,000 is a lot of money to me for knowing what 400 residents, although I understand the concept of statistical validity. I understand that concept, but still, if we're going to do this and we really want a snapshot, then I certainly hope that it's open to the general public, and that wasn't written here any way other than saying what the statistic validity is 400 residents.
That's a great question, Councilmember Kane. The survey would be sent out to 3,000 households. 400 is the minimum number that ETC would need in order for it to be statistically valid. And there would be an online component that would allow anyone to take the survey. However, when you take the online survey, you do have to enter your address, and that address has to match with an address on the sample list in order for those results to be included in the statistically valid survey results. But we would have access to anyone's information that took the survey that their address didn't match the sample size. So we would get that cross-tabular data.
So how many households do we have?
Gosh, I would have to defer to probably
So
Mark Klein.
3,000 of the number of households, I just kind of wonder what that is.
16,000.
So again, as long as all citizens have the opportunity to weigh in, and if the only hurdle or requisite that is putting in their own address and somehow that's matched, then I'll defer to your greater wisdom. But I like I said, I do know when reading this that there are vehicles to do a lot of this, but whether or not that's compiled and everything, I get all that.
And the city and ETC will promote the survey on social media and our website. So we do want as many people as possible to take the survey. And if we get more than 400 responses that are part of the sample, the 3,000 address sample, those will continue to be factored into the statistically valid. So if we got 3,000 responses and they were all part of the sample, that would be, unheard of. But when we did the survey last year, I believe we well over exceeded our response rate for that survey to be statistical. So I would think that we would do that again with this survey.
Well, last year, when we did it, it was literally one question.
It
So
was.
it was,
It was an
and this
issue
is
question.
talking about up to 6 pages, so it's a different animal entirely. So, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all my questions.
Ms. Villa?
We've covered it.
Yes, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. I noticed trash services is a category, and since the city doesn't manage trash services like it does in so many other communities, I feel like we'd be opening a big can of worms, especially since my own neighborhood is having great issues with trash pickup. So I would love to just remove that since it's not a city service.
Yeah, we will be able to dictate what questions go on the survey. We'll use questions from the national benchmarking list that was included in the packet, but we can pull off ones that don't apply to our city or services that we provide. And there's also opportunity for you all, if you have specific questions or a topic that you'd like to get some information on, if you want to send that to either me or Diane by January 16th, we can work with ETC to get those questions put on the survey. So if you do have some areas of interest or curiosity that you'd like to put out there to people, then we can work those in to the survey.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on that, Stephen, could you send the council what the current categories of questions are right now, so that it kind of be a tickler to give us ideas as to what we might also like to add?
Yes, I can.
And the cutoff is what, 2 weeks from tonight?
The 16th, so 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Sipple. Other questions or comments concerning the survey? If not, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Sipple. Second. Thank you, Ms. Phillip. Any other additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item letter J is approved.
Mayor Elkins, if I
Yes.
could interrupt, could we please check Mr. Sipple's microphone and Mrs. Keynes to make sure, or Harrison to make sure they're on?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the Parks and Recreation Staff Report, item M.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question for Chris with regard to the parks maintenance facility. One of your line items, the last one under the park maintenance facility, said the design team is requesting additional compensation because of the long delay and extended number of meeting times and submission review. Don't we have a bid that we're supposed to live within? Isn't our contractor have a bid? It seems like the design team, they have an open-ended contract with the city and they're requesting additional compensation. It seems like a deal's a deal. When we approve, this is $14 million or something. It seems like, are they milking the cow, as they say?
So right now, I think the staff is trying to work through that and see, we're working with the legal department, with Patty, to look at the agreements and try to determine, why the delays were there and what the reporting duty was of the architect, as well as the contractor. So we are working through that right now.
But the design hasn't changed.
The design hasn't changed, but the delays has caused the architectural team to be out there more than they plan to be via their contract. So they're asking for additional compensation for their time.
Because I can recall comments from the park supervisor that the contractor had trouble with staffing, and with their management team, they had some turnover as to the on-site foreman and things like that. That's not our problem. It seems like, well, I'm very concerned about somebody getting additional compensation for things that are outside the city's control. So I'll just leave it with that. Would you keep us posted on
Absolutely.
whether or not and how much they're
Yes,
asking for and their reasons for it?
Correct. And with Patty's assistance, we are trying to get all of those things,
Okay.
identified so that we can move forward with the discussion with both the design architect and/or the contractor. So yes, we will keep you advised.
Thank you, Ms. Claxton.
Additional questions from Ms. Claxton regarding the staff report from Parks and Recreation. Councilperson Kane.
Yes, I pulled this also in reference to the 75th anniversary piece. I'm reading here that the estimated monthly cost to store the piece is $1,500 a month, which is the first time I've heard a number. I knew we were going to have to store it. I knew, but I never heard a number. I don't know that any of us have heard a number until tonight. And then the next bullet point says the engineer is still working on the plans and anticipates, based on completion and bidding the installation, a time frame of May 2024. So I wasn't clear with that sentence if we're thinking that that base is going to be ready for installation in May, or that's when the plans are going to come back.
No, that's what we're hoping the installation will be. Because right now, we haven't even bid the project. So finish the plans, bid the project. I believe that the artist, this is the most up-to-date information I have. Haven't had anything. We are having a Zoom meeting with the artist on Friday. So the storage, as I said in the report, is going to be down there. I don't know. He doesn't want to bring it up here and then have to monitor it at the site, for security reasons. So, yeah, that number, we just got that to see what it was going to be to store it on a monthly basis. So take that number times, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, 5
So-
months is $7,500 extra dollars, so cha-ching, cha-ching. So I just wanted to make sure everybody read the fine print, because that was the first time either I've heard it or Parks and Rec hasn't even heard that number. Arts hasn't heard that number. So that was a new piece of information for us, so thank you. That's all I had.
Ms. Claxton, do you know, is there any markup on those storage costs from the artist, or is it a straight pass-through?
I don't have any idea. My question was, was it going to cost you to store it at your location? So I don't know. I will ask that question. My assumption would be that it wouldn't be. But I do think we're also looking, if I'm correct, we're also looking at amending that agreement again. The extension of time, and then also probably including that storage cost as well. So that's something else that we're working with legal on.
Okay. Mr. Sunkel?
Is the piece completed now? Because the question was asked, but...
It's very close to completion. Those pieces will be brought up here and put together here once the base is done with the construction.
Great, thank you.
And then if we're...
Ms. Kane?
Thank you. And if we're modifying that agreement again, I don't have it in front of me, but certainly we're holding back a huge percentage of that overall fee until this is installed and working completely. Because as I remember the way it was written, we were thinking we were getting it and installing it, in 2023, and then that agreement made sense, the timing of the payments. But it makes no sense to this brain if he's going to be paid 100% and we're not going to see it for 5 months, nor are we going to know it's going to work. So I hope that, because the way that contract is written, right now, it's not written that way. Right now, he's it talked about upon completion. Well, now we're not going to get it, nor is it going to be installed, nor is it going to be working.
There's $40,000 left to be paid to him. We just made a payment, I believe, in the check run last week. So we will not pay that until the piece is delivered and installed. That $40,000 is the last payment, which he will not receive until the installation is complete.
So that's roughly 40%, 45% we're holding back from the total, his 200 total.
Correct.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Other questions for Ms. Claxton? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the staff report from Parks and Recreation?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sunkel. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item number M, staff report from Parks and Recreation, is approved.
Thank you.
Takes us to item number 13, the mayor's report. I actually have a couple of different things. The Mayor Dunn referenced one of them earlier tonight, but just to reiterate, Leawood will be hosting Mayor, and I apologize for the pronunciations here, but Rotem Yadlin and General Director Carmel Tal from our sister city, the Gezer Regional Council in Israel, on January 8 and 9. This is part of a larger visit to this Kansas City metro area in which the Jewish Federation will be hosting, and I understand that from Kansas City, the delegation from Gezer will be moving on to Washington, D.C. So more to come there. That came up on fairly short notice. That my sense is that this is a continuation is not the right word, but a substitute for the visit that was supposed to take place in October when world events intervened. The second item on my report is that, as many of you know, one of my first initiatives as mayor is to organize a conference of all the homeowners association presidents, the city staff, and the city council. This will be an opportunity for the city to share recent developments in the city with the HOAs and for the HOAs to share their concerns with us. My current thought is to combine presentations by key staff directors and then have breakout sessions that will be moderated by city council members. So the idea is that, and again, this is kind of half-baked at this point in time, but I wanted to bring it up to get you all thinking about it. But the idea is that you would meet with and moderate a session with the homeowners presidents from your wards and get a better idea of, in particular, what's on their minds, and then come back at the end of the session and report back to the group as a whole. And what I'm thinking of is along the lines of a half-day session, probably on a Saturday morning, with the hopes that it'll take place in April. So if any of you have any thoughts or a different approach, please let me know at your convenience, but absent a strong objection over the next meeting or so, I'm going to ask staff to proceed with planning for that. Ms. Kane.
I'll be in Portland at my son's wedding the entire first week of April, so.
We'll make it the second week of April or no earlier.
No, make it the 3rd or the 4th, would you please?
Sounds like it's going to be quite a party. So. But again, I'm not looking for a lot of discussion tonight, but if you have thoughts, and I want to give you some more time to think about it, let me know. But the idea, again, would be for Mark and David, and not every department head, the chiefs, to share with the homeowners presidents what they're doing, but even more importantly, to hear back from the homeowners associations what their concerns are, and then maybe have a fairly constructive breakout session between individual council members and the HOAs that are in their wards. So that's what my thought is, and I'm open to any sorts of ideas or constructive criticism, but I do think it's an important step, and it also supports some of the goals that were set by the last governing body with respect to improving relations and communications between the citizens generally and the homeowners associations in particular and the governing body. So that's the balance of my report. Are there any other council member reports this evening? If not, Ms. Stoddard, do you have comments?
Mayor, only to congratulate you and the newly elected, newly seated council members this evening. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Stoddard, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for all the work and help that you and the rest of the staff have been to both me and the other new council members as we got ready to take our seats tonight. In particular, really appreciated the orientation session. Those of you who didn't have to sit through the one that I was in probably got off easy because I had a whole lot of questions, and the 45 minutes Diane allotted turned into about an hour and a half, if not more. So thank you for your patience with me as I asked more questions than I probably was allotted. All right, that takes us to committee recommendations. I think we usually take these up one at a time, if I'm not mistaken. So with this, I would call the ordinance amending section 16-4-9 of the Leawood Development Ordinance. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this application is regard to amending section 16-4-9, which is fences and walls section. This actually has been a request from the Board of Zoning Appeals for a long time now. They see a lot of applications that they get for fences, especially on through lots, and then also as far as on corner lots. And so that's really what these amendments will deal with, and I'll just kind of take one at each time. The first one is through lot, and a through lot is defined as far as having a lot that has a street going along its front side, and then also on the backyard it has another street that's going, so it has street both in front and in the back. Currently right now, the development ordinance states that if you have that situation, the rear yard is considered as a front yard, and so that fence has to be moved back, set back from the street 35 feet. In a lot of respects, that does not allow, as far as some of these houses that do have that through lot, to have any fencing in the back, or a lot of times it'll have it so close to the back door that it really doesn't really allow anybody any usable yard, sometimes 10 feet or 5 feet or something like that. So what this amendment does is it provides an exception to the Board of Zoning Appeals, so the Board of Zoning Appeals can take a look at this, and if they think that it makes sense, they can go ahead and grant an exception that would allow them to place the fence on the rear property line, or maybe in adjacent to where other fences are lined up on properties on either side. Currently, right now, they have to seek a variance, and a variance is a very difficult thing to do, and basically you have to meet 5 factors, and the 2 hardest ones to me are that the property itself has to be unique. In a lot of cases, a through lot isn't unique at all. We have a lot of areas within Leawood that have a front, a street in front and a street in back. And the other one is that the hardship can't be caused by the applicant. Well, I mean, they're providing the fence, so in a way, it's kind of hard to make that argument. They do end up granting a lot of these variances. This will just make it a lot, where they can be a little bit more, as far as these are the factors that we're considering, and not have to go through some gymnastics as far as trying to do something that might make some sense. The other one that we'd like to talk about is corner lots. And corner lots are where you have a street that goes in your front yard, and then you also have it along one side. Right now, the development ordinance for a corner lot, for instance, on R1, your side yard setback is 30 feet. And so you wouldn't be able to put that fence, you'd have to have that fence set back 30 feet from your side property line as it goes along. This particular amendment would only apply to existing fences that are on the side of the house that don't meet that requirement, and would also allow the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant an exception to replace the fence. It does not apply to a new fence, so if somebody didn't have a fence going along their side yard right now, this would not help them. There would be no exception for that. And so those are really the 2 main changes that these 2 ordinances are proposing to make. And I'll be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Questions for Mr. Klein? Yes, Councilman Harrison.
Thank you. I'm not sure where I read it, Mark, because I don't know how to do the search feature yet on my new toy here, but I thought that chain link fences were not allowed in Leawood.
Actually, chain link, they are allowed they are allowed. And usually they have to be PVC coated with either a green or a black vinyl coating.
So they can't be the metal silvery?
I don't believe so. I'll double check that.
Okay.
But
I thought they weren't allowed. Maybe it's an HOA thing that doesn't allow them in certain. So I see them very, very rarely, and often only little sections, not PVC coated necessarily. The schools I know use them, but I thought maybe the rules were different for schools.
Right.
They're coated. They're coated.
And I'll double check that. I know some of the subdivisions, they have a split rail fence, which doesn't really keep the pets in. And so
Just
they'll
for
put
show.
like a chain link
Right.
fence on the back side of them.
Right. Okay. All these years I thought we didn't allow chain link in residential in Leawood, and I thought I saw it in here, and I thought, but it wasn't read. So I just wanted to verify that. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Phillip.
I just wanted to thank you for working with the BZA on this so that we have consistency and we handle grandfathering and we streamline it so that we continue to make ourselves more responsive to our constituents and also a better use of your time. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Discussion concerning Planning Commission case number 85-23.
Move to approve?
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, oh, I'm sorry, this is an ordinance, so it requires a roll call. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Phila?
Aye.
Councilmember Sunkel?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Mary, that was to you.
Yeah.
She said
I
yes.
said aye.
Okay.
Okay, we heard you.
Did you hear that?
Thanks.
Let's see. Councilmember Guyad?
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel? Councilmember Harrison?
Aye.
Councilmember Kane?
Aye.
Councilmember Castor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously, and ordinance for case number 85-23 is approved. The governing body now calls Planning Commission case number 90-23, ordinance approving a rezoning from Ag to R1 and a final plan for Estates of Sienna. Does staff wish to be heard first, or shall we go with?
You go.
Okay. I'll yield to the applicant then.
Okay.
Sir, if you could state your name and address for our record, we'd be grateful.
Yeah. Jay Caddock with Schlegel, 14920 West 107th Street. We're representing Rick Odo and the Odo family, and Rick's on the Zoom. I think he's got a few words to say, but I just wanted to say thanks for pulling a couple consent items because I felt like I was ruining the party there. So I'll let Rick take it away on that.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Odo, do you wish to be heard?
Well, first of all, yes, I do. First of all, congratulations, Mayor, to the new City Council. Looking forward to working with you. As you probably know, this is a 13-acre, 9-lot subdivision. It is a third phase of a multi-phase, three-phase community that was approved back in, I believe, 2002.
Mr. Odo, we just lost you. Mr. Odo, can you hear me?
Well, this is a first.
Yeah.
Looks like it's back to you.
Okay. I think where he was going was this is a third phase of a previously approved development plan that was in, I think, 2000. Oh. Rick?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Mr. Odo.
Okay, yeah, I was just finishing up. This was a plan that was previously approved in 2002, I believe, and we just would like to have it, we're ready to get started on the final phase. If you have any questions, Jake or I can help you.
And Mr. Odo, do you have any objections to the stipulations that I'm sure were a part of case number 90-23?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant or for city staff with respect to Planning Commission case number 90-23? I'll start with Councilperson Kane, please.
Yes, I was aware, I've been aware for a long time that this was third phase and that this 13-acre lot would be subdivided at some point in time. So here we are. What I didn't understand or didn't realize is that that land was still zoned agriculture. So, and what I didn't know, because I never driven down there, that there's and I believe it's Mr. Odo Sr.'s, his parents' house has got a pool and 2 outbuildings and horses. And I had no way of knowing that because I've never been on that property. So I understand why they want to keep the zoning agriculture, but, and because of those outbuildings and the 15-foot restriction if it's zoned R1 for the outbuildings, which already they are higher than the 15 feet. But, and I understand if they're not going to touch the 5.5 acres now, perhaps there's nothing that needs to be done or should be done right at this point in time. But what I don't personally like, if it remains agriculture, either that 5.5 acres remains agriculture either now or in perpetuity, is that nothing's going to stop whoever, if indeed they keep that 5.5 acres whole, which is what they said the intention is. But, you know, we know what intentions are and what reality ends up being are not necessarily the same thing. Often they're not anywhere close to so what I'm saying is, if the height of an outbuilding for agriculture can be 35 feet tall, which is what I understand, I don't like that at all. That there is nothing that, if that 5.5 remains agriculture, that there's nothing to stop, you know, the current owner might be the Odos, and they might not change anything. But if it indeed is sold to the next person, 5.5 acres, there's nothing literally to stop them from putting up a 35-foot tall outbuilding or two on their 5.5 acres. So how do we protect the future residents of Sienna Estates, or how do we, you know, when and how is it best to mitigate that?
Mr. Klein, do you care to comment?
Yes. With regard to the 35-foot height limitation as far as ag, that's actually something that would need to be looked at and changed as far as the Leawood Development Ordinance if that accessory height wanted to change. Right now, basically, all residential is limited to 15 feet in height. Commercial is 25 feet in height. Ag is exempted from that height limitation for accessories, so that's the reason why it goes to the 35 feet that's allowed within that. I imagine it was probably made that way because if you do have a farmhouse or something like that, and there is some agricultural on the site, that you may have structures that would exceed, for instance, 15 feet in height. So I think that that's probably the reason for that. Agricultural is kind of used as a base zoning when things come into the city, and part of the reason for that is there's a lot of restrictions for agriculture. You have to have a minimum of 40 acres. You have to have, you can only have certain uses on it. And so by right, the Leawood Development Ordinance allows as far as a single family house on an ag piece. Partly you might have a farmhouse that has a lot of land around it, and then it slowly gets developed into as far as different developments where they actually will rezone that property, and then they have to meet the requirements of that proposed zoning that they're going through. And so that's kind of the situation here. I imagine at one point this used to be an agricultural piece, and then at some point, you know, it kept on getting subdivided off. It had the piece as far as that you currently have the larger piece that Mr. Odo has his house on, and now he would like to take that portion that's adjacent to Mission Road and actually divide that up into single-family lots. And there is possible that, you know, in the future, somebody could come in, buy that 5-acre piece and say, hey, I would like to extend a road and create a subdivision. Leawood does have for R1 that you have to have a minimum lot size of the average lot sizes that are within 300 feet. Or a minimum of an acre. So there is that protection as far as not having a lot of really small lots or something like that go in. But as far as the accessory height, I think it would probably take an amendment to the development ordinance.
So are you saying then, do I understand you correctly, that it's because they're not lot or putting that into the 9 lots, that right now the best course of action for that 5.5 acres is to keep it ag, but in the future, if it's ever sold, because I have heard from the real estate grapevine, which is alive and well out there, that the Odo seniors intend to buy build on one of the 9 lots and sell off that 5, whether or not it's sold. Again, according to the minutes here, they intend to keep it 5.5. That's the plan now, but again, what ends up happening, you know. So that would be the appropriate time to rezone it or get it out of ag at that point in time.
Correct. They really couldn't do more than one. They have one house on it right now, and it only allows one house on that 5.5 acres. So if they were actually looking to develop the property and they wanted a subdivision that, say, had 4 houses or anything more than one house, they would have to subdivide that property, and that would require them to rezone because they would no longer meet that 40 acres for the.
But what's to stop the next owner or the owners for right now to build a 35-foot tall outbuilding?
I'd have to take a look as far as like the outbuilding but with regard to the accessory height, they currently would be allowed under our ordinance for that.
Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. You all done? Thank you. I read this with great interest this weekend, and I guess what jumped off the page with me, and I've already shared my questions earlier with Mark, was that this was zoned agriculture when there was no obvious agricultural activity. I'm a city girl, and I thought that land that was zoned agriculture had agricultural activity like farming on it. And there's plenty of land right near my home at 135th near Mission where crops are sowed every year, and they are plowed up, and soybeans and corn and things are, and cattle and chickens and things are, agricultural things are happening. But when I drive by this property every day on my way to work, I see a field of trees and mowed grass and geese, and no agricultural activity on the land that is being subdivided. And I'm wondering if we've made a big error in not collecting the right property taxes on this land for 20-something years because it's not actually been having any agricultural activity. But if the tax laws are such that you don't actually have to pretend to be a farmer and still get the ag, I just know that the property taxes here are probably less than I'm paying on my home and my little house. Right. So I feel like we have been remiss in, this is a single-family home on a great deal of property, and then as I drive down 143rd Street and see these beautiful mansions that have come up, I'm thinking to myself now, today, as I drive by them, is that all ag? I mean, just because, for whatever reason. So I do wonder if there isn't some LDO clarification or tax clarification that we, and this may be a county thing and not a Leawood thing, but I would like for us to maybe clarify.
I can answer that.
Mr. Klein and then Mr. Odo. Mr. Klein?
And actually, I just want to make sure that nobody really kind of went out and said formally, this is ag zoning, except maybe when it was out of the county. Typically, you have undeveloped land, farmland that's out there. And so eventually cities over time, they start expanding and that land is taken into the city. And the city takes that land in typically as ag just because it's the safest thing to take it in as, because if they took it in under a different zoning or something like that, that would allow that particular piece of land to be developed in a way that maybe the city wasn't ready for. And so by having that holding zone of that ag, it allows that city to, when an application does come forward to do a development, either a residential or a commercial development, and requires them to rezone, and then they have to meet the standards of the development ordinance that's in effect for the city. Mm-hmm. So this is something that pretty much goes on across the country as far as that's typically the way that, you know, new land comes into the city, and it is zoned ag, and most places I think do allow as far as a single-family residence on them. A lot of times you'll have a large piece come in. The people are no longer interested in farming. They might have the old farmhouse that's located there. Mm-hmm. And so you already have a single-family house that's located on this big piece of land. And typically, you know, as land becomes more valuable, it becomes more valuable to develop. And so that's usually when you have the, you know, the other restrictions and everything put on.
Right. To follow up, though, I was confused also by the 40 acre, because this hasn't been 40 acres for a long time. And so I would have assumed that once it went under that 40 acre threshold, that somehow it would have had to have been classified differently.
Generally, no. I mean, as it's carved up and it gets smaller and smaller, you have that remnant piece that is kind of legal non-conforming at that part. And and along, as far as a lot of the property, especially along 135th Street corridor, a lot of that property was zoned ag, and as it's come through, you've seen the rezonings to either MXD or STCR, SDO for office or retail. And so it does that for commercial property as well as for residential development.
Now, Mr. Klein, is it not true that classification for ad valorem tax purposes is a different matter than zoning? So the zoning doesn't necessarily dictate that for ad valorem tax purposes, it's classified as agriculture. Am I right about that?
And I'm not an expert on the taxation portion of it. I do know that we have a piece of property that is zone MXD along 135th Street corridor, and I got a call from the property owner, and he said that they were going to be taxed for a nursery because they had a bunch of trees that were planted kind of in rows, and most of the trees were dead, and so he didn't want to be charged for a nursery, so he removed the dead trees. So I think it doesn't necessarily follow as far as from the zoning to as far as what is taxed.
Mr. Odo, I believe you had a comment?
I do. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes, and Mayor, you're 100% right. The two agriculturals are different. We lost the agricultural ability property tax about 7 years ago. Prior to that, we had trees out there, we had cattle out there, we were a farm, and forever we had thousands of trees out there that we sold in and out, from Christmas trees to deciduous trees. So we've been a farm up until about 7 years ago. So last 7 years, we've been paying lot pricing. So everybody, the Johnson County did their job making sure that we had approved with our farm every year.
Thank you, Mr. Odo. Ms. Phillip.
I was just going to comment that I'm guessing that 35-foot allowance for an outbuilding sounds about like what you want to have if you were going to have a barn, where you have animals on. Yeah, so that sounds like a barn structure, but I doubt whether anybody's going to build a barn out there. And if you're going to do residential, you'll have to change the zoning, so.
Mr. Odo?
We currently have a barn on the lot. It's on the north side near the apartments, and that would be about right. I'm guessing that the height of that barn is about 30 plus the cupola would make it about 35 feet, and it's been there for 50 years, 45, 50 years.
Other comments or questions for either the applicant or for staff? Discussion from the council.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Phillip. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Sipple.
I'm sorry, I do
Discussion?
have one more question.
Go ahead, Ms.
If I
Gaines.
might, please. If another outbuilding was going to be built, or they wanted to tear down the barn and build a new barn, or the new owner, or a new structure was going to go on that 5.5 acres, would they have to come before us? If something new was going to go up on that land, or once again, do we have no power over 30, 40, 35-foot stories, buildings going up? Is there a number of accessory buildings as well as a height?
And I would have to double check. I know typically we don't allow detached buildings, and so you don't see detached garages and things that are associated with that. And I can go back and take a look at the development ordinance to see if the ag has that exception. Typically, we haven't run into that situation because usually you have a large piece of property and it keeps on getting whittled down, and so they're developing it, and so generally they aren't putting up a new structure on the properties that we've seen so far. They typically will be tearing down the one that was there and carving it up and doing a development.
And I appreciate that the Odos might not have any intention of doing that, but the minute the sale happens, then what happens to it is out of the Odos' control. Like right now, I understand that the intent might not be to change it, but the new owners, like I said, we don't know what the new owners might do or want to do. And so I would be interested in knowing what the number is on a 3.3 acres, because that will not be an agriculture, at that point in time. It hasn't been in 7 years. I mean, if we sell it, it's sold as agriculture, and we have no power over We have no control, we have no power.
And let me check as far as the exemption. We haven't really run into it, so I don't know it off the top of my head, but
Right.
I'll
Right.
double check.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Additional discussion concerning the motion on case number 90-23? If not, this is an ordinance, and the clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Castor?
Aye.
Councilmember Kane?
Nay, for lack of clarity on the issues I stated.
Councilmember Harrison?
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel?
Aye.
Councilmember Guyad?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Councilmember Sunkel?
Aye.
Councilmember Phila?
Aye.
I have 7-1 in favor, and the motion passes, and case number 90-23 is approved. The council, or the governing body, now calls case number 89-23, an ordinance approving a revised preliminary plan for 135 mixed-use development located south of 135th Street and west of Kenneth Road. Does the applicant wish to be heard? Welcome to the City Council and governing body. Please introduce yourself, and we're anxious to hear what you have to say.
Yes, my name is Andrew Schaefer. I'm with Real Estate Equities Development Company based out of Eagan, Minnesota.
And your business address?
1303 Corporate Center Drive, Eagan, Minnesota, 55121.
Thank you. Welcome to the Leawood City Council.
Thank you. I do have a flash drive. I had a very brief presentation. Is it okay to plug that in? Thank you, Mayor and council members. We're excited to be here tonight. We have been working on a proposed project called the Village Cooperative of Leawood. I just want to do a brief introduction of our company, Real Estate Equities, visit a little bit about the proposed plan amendment, and answer any questions you may have. So our company, Real Estate Equities, has been around for a long time. Our roots date back to 1972. We've been a Minneapolis, St. Paul-based company since that time. We're very experienced in primarily residential development. We've developed more than 100 unique projects, totaling more than 9,000 homes. About almost 20 years ago, we started to develop village cooperative communities, and we currently have 44 of those that are completed or under construction or in the planning stage. So we've got projects throughout Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, a number of properties here in the Kansas City metro area. We've got a lot of projects in Colorado, a couple in Washington State, and a couple in Texas. So we're kind of throughout the center and a little bit to the western part of the country. The communities here in Kansas City, besides the proposed project here in Leawood, would include projects in Lenexa, Olathe, Overland Park, Shawnee, Lee Summit, and then 2 communities in KC-Mo, one on the north end of the city, which we call the Village Cooperative of the Northland, and one on the south, which we call the Village Cooperative of Verona Hills. This is just one photo of our community in Olathe that we developed a couple of years ago. People have been living there for about 2.5 to 3 years now. Our building features are 59 no-step homes, underground parking, heated parking, guest suites for friends and family, large community spaces, a club/pub room, fitness center, reading areas, raised garden beds on the outside of the community, outdoor fireplace and grilling patio areas. The site that we are proposing to develop this community on is just on the south side of 135th and on the west of Kenneth, on approximately 3 acres. We're just doing architectural plans now. This is just kind of a very conceptual rendering of the community. We're planning on 4 stories, again, over the underground garage, besides where we would enter it on the east side. This would show another site plan on that corner, on that southwest corner of 135th and Kenneth Road. There is kind of a tract that cannot be built on and will be retained in the upper right-hand corner of the site plan there, and we'll have a lot of green space around the building and landscaping. with that, I'll certainly open it up for any questions you may have, or turn it over to staff for any presentation they want to make.
Thank you, and I would just remind the council, I know we've had these discussions in the past when I was in a different role, but because this is a preliminary plan and a revised preliminary plan, the architecture is really not a commit at this point in time. So, Ms. Kane.
Yes, thank you. So I'm a residential realtor and have been for 18 years, so I must say I'm not, I know what a co-op is. I've just never been part of, well, I guess you don't involve realtors anyway, so it doesn't, so I haven't been involved in that. So my first thing is, my first question is, 59 feet 10 inches tall, is that under what we were recently talking about as far as height along that corridor?
Yes, I believe staff was proposing, I think, 55, but I think that motion was to make it 60, and so it would be 50, 59, 10 would be within that.
But this, so 5910 is, your intention is to keep it a 4-story building, right? So it can't go higher than, it can't have a 5th story if we approve this preliminary, right?
Correct. They would have to come back with a new preliminary if they wanted to go taller than that.
Okay, great. So again, just for all of our knowledge, maybe you guys are way ahead of me. So do I understand from what I'm reading here that the price of this will be somewhere like $240,000? Do I read that correctly?
The pricing will vary by which home someone selects, and it's unlike a home sale. People purchase a share in the cooperative corporation. So they buy shares, and then they basically own a share within that cooperative corporation. So there's kind of 2 sources of financing for the project. There's share purchases, and then there's actually a blanket mortgage on the property as well.
So the 240, give or take. And then do I understand correctly that there's $2,000, give or take, a month in expenses on top of that?
That would be generally accurate. Just it covers all of the operating costs of the community, the property taxes, insurances, utilities. All of that is kind of wrapped into a larger association fee than it would be if it was an outright purchase.
Because I'm not aware that we don't have another co-op in Leawood anywhere. I know that we had, again, because I'm in residential real estate, we've had different senior homes where you bought and you own shares and they've gone belly up and, that kind of thing. So this is a new animal to all of us up here. As far as being in Leawood. So if you own a share in the cooperative and you don't own the house, then you don't acquire equity because you don't own the house. So see what I mean? It's a different thing. Can these units, if you buy a unit, can you rent it out?
So our bylaws kind of restrict that. You can only rent it out if the association, the cooperative has a board of directors, and they would have to approve of any subleases. It's very rare. We've got, again, 35 or so of these communities that have been up and operating for up to 20 years. And there's maybe a random one here, one there for some logical reason that they will sublease. I can recall one instance where someone subleased it to their sister, and they went south for the winter, and she would live in the community for 6 months.
Something like that. So
Yeah.
it's not, somebody can't come in and buy 5 of them and then just start renting them out.
No, it's anti-speculation clauses in the bylaws. Very rare that we would have someone sublease it. It's not impossible, but it's not typical.
Because it's not meant to be an investment property. It's meant to be lived in.
Correct.
Owned, well, you don't own it, but you own a share in the co-op. But
That's correct.
do you know in town here, are you allowing financing, or is this an outright cash purchase?
So
I'm just
typically the
curious what your
share-
model is.
Yeah, so typically the shares are an outright cash purchase. So most of our buyers on average are in their late 60s through their 70s, and they're selling a single-family home just simply because they want to simplify their lifestyle, but they want to stay near where they live. So most of our projects have been, I'll call it more infill developments, closer to neighborhoods where our customers live. This is an excellent location for us with obviously a lot of households around. and a lot of interest in the project. So most people are selling their home, investing a lot less than maybe they have in equity in their home into the cooperative. And then when they do need to move out, there's a wait list of people who don't want to get into the community, and they will sell their share to the next buyer. So
So they don't get sold on the open market. They get sold on this wait list, if indeed there is one. And
that's typically the way they transfer. The cooperative has like a first right of refusal, and the cooperative will typically use the wait list to resell the share for we call them members. They're a member of the cooperative if they live there. So that's the most typical transfer of ownership.
So I'm just curious, again, because this is a new animal to us, so, but it's, obviously, it's working in our metro, but, so what's like the turnaround time? So say somebody leaves in January 1, that's the turnaround time that they normally can close out that transaction?
It really kind of depends. I wouldn't say I know the exact average, but I would say somewhere between 30 to 90 days.
Well, that's better than, like I said, a lot of them, the money gets really tied up for a really long time. So that's a good answer. And I really appreciate that you have expertise and you've done this a lot, even in our own metro. Otherwise, I'd be all shades of nervous up here if this was the first one in our metro. But my other question is, and again, it's curiosity, is all these are not going to be, or are they identical units, or is somebody able to, this one might be worth $240, but this one's worth $200, but you all get one share in the co-op? How does that work unless it's a homogeneous product?
Yeah, the home sizes range from 900 square feet up to maybe 1,700 square feet. So the shares, the primary factor in the share value is size. There's some adjustment for what floor they're on, the top floor obviously being the most expensive. So there's a wide range. I think there's 18 different floor plans in the building. So there's a lot of variety, both in sizes and styles of home. And then, we allow people to select their finishes, so they will not be identical carpets or cabinets, so they're all kind of unique in how they're finished.
So they don't have all one share then?
They have one share for voting purposes.
For voting purposes, but as far as not equity, well, you know what I'm saying. As far as
their share purchases is controlled by the bylaws. It increases at 3% per year. So if someone buys a $200,000 share, each year it will go up, simple interest 3%. Their share will increase by $6,000 each year that they're there. When they go to sell their share, there has to be a buyer for it, but typically there are wait lists on all of our other communities that we've ever developed. Typically the communities stay pretty affordable long-term, and the wait lists seem to get longer and longer the older the communities get. And the new buyer would pay whatever the current share value is, and that's what it transfers for.
So it's 3% is a guaranteed increase?
I can't say it's guaranteed because there has to be a buyer willing to buy the share.
Right.
But we've been doing it for 20 years, and there's been cooperatives in Minnesota structured the same similar way since the mid-1970s. And there's been no problems on any of them that I'm aware of as far as the transfer of the shares to a buyer.
So I think our average home increase in Leawood last year was what, 15%?
Yeah. So they stay affordable long-term.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Mr. Sipple.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple questions. One of your existing structures that your company manages was in Verona Hills in Kansas City, Missouri. Could you describe where that is? I'm fairly familiar with that area, but I don't know if there's a high-rise or multi-story condo unit over there.
So it's maybe a quarter mile south of 435 off Warnell Road.
Oh. Okay, that's not really Verona Hills.
Well, it's maybe a little further south than that. It's close to the Verona Hills neighborhood over there.
I see. Okay.
The other community that we just opened for occupancy would be just south of the Overland Park Target community on 123rd. So just be south of Target, Blue Valley, and on the west side of Blue Valley Parkway.
Yep.
Okay.
So that community, people just started moving in this summer. That's another one that's located near Leawood, obviously.
Just to take the lead from what Ms. Kane was talking about, if I was an owner and moved in next year or the year after, and then a couple of years later wanted to sell it, is it the owner's responsibility to sell it to the next customer, or is it your company's responsibility to fix up and then market and sell the condo or the unit?
Yeah, so typically, you know, the member that owns the share will notify the cooperative that they want to sell their share. In most circumstances, like our Overland Park community has a wait list of 20 to 25 people. If a home becomes available, they want to jump on it. So typically the cooperative is going to work with the wait list and secure a buyer for the share. The transfer takes place between the cooperative, so the new buyer pays the cooperative pays the existing member their share value. That way the cooperative controls the books and understands who all the shareholders are, and there's not shares being traded without their knowledge. Now, the cooperative has so much time to do that within the bylaws, and if they don't execute that, then the member technically has the right to sell their share however they want to, but typically it happens within the time frame, and the cooperative facilitates that, and the management company that manages the community.
So is the current owner's capital gain limited to 3% a year? So if I buy it for 200 and 3 years down the road, I'd get whatever that is, 206 and then 212 and then 220. That's what my gain would be, 220. Even if the market goes up 10% a year in Leawood, it should have been 250. I get 220.
That's correct. Yep, and obviously the real estate market goes up 15% one year, and we've seen it go down. Obviously over time, the 3% is a conservative appreciation. That's somewhat intentional, just to make sure that there's a strong wait list and that people that are investing into the cooperative are at least getting a reasonable return on their investment.
If everything goes well for you and Mr. Lashbrook and Mr. Rainier, when would you be ready for? When would you be open?
Well, we're hoping to break ground this year, and it takes about 16 to 18 months typically to build one of our communities. Depends on some of the circumstances with the foundation and the timing of the year that you break ground. So, 2 years from now.
And you're not going to have common dining facilities in there? You might have meeting rooms. You won't have any nursing staff or anything like that available?
No, this is a completely independent community, so there's no meals. There's a lot of social activities. People can have services brought in if they needed them, but for the most part, all of our cooperative members are independent and not needing care or services.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Yes, Ms. Phila.
So I'm sorry, this is very detailed. Like, if I'm walking down the hall, is it going to look like a retirement community, or is it going to have a different flair that I feel like I'm going by people's houses? And I love this concept. It's kind of magical to me. And then what does a 900 square foot look like and compared to 1,700? And how do you, I guess, if I'd been more adept at reading these little maps, I could have figured that out, but I can't. So just if you could give me a feel for how all of that logistically feels when you think of a home. Can't plant shrubs or anything to distinguish your home, but how do they do that? And so you say they can finish it themselves, and then the follow-on question is, you've got maintenance being paid for. So where's that line between what they pay for and they modify and you approve, and then what happens if there's plumbing that needs to be taken care of?
Yeah, so the structure of the building is obviously underground parking, which is very attractive to most of the
especially in Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. You can see where we're located, and it's a little bit colder climates. But so there's 2 central elevators. You would take an elevator up to whatever floor you're on. There would be a corridor with access to the homes. Obviously, the homes are larger than most apartment sizes. Inside the homes, it's a full kitchen, living areas. We have a 900 square foot home would have just 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a large laundry and storage room, kitchen that's open to the living room. All the homes have a patio or a deck, private patio or deck. The larger homes, we've got some that are 2 bedrooms plus a den, 2 bathrooms, just more space in them. The main floor is kind of the hub of the building, so when you come into the community, there'll be a lobby entrance area. There's a manager's office there, so there's part-time staff in the building. There's typically a part-time manager, a part-time housekeeper, and a part-time maintenance person to take care of just the routine maintenance around the community. If long-term there are any issues that come up, there are reserves that are funded by the cooperative, and the building is maintained by the cooperative. If someone does an extravagant upgrade and it needs to be fixed or repaired, they could be responsible for something that's abnormal to the building, so not a common fixture within the building, but there aren't too many of those. We typically are allowing people to select their finishes from, some limited products that we know we can get into the building and not build 59 custom homes, but at least have 6 to 8 different cabinet colors and different carpet levels and flooring and appliances so that the homes look unique enough.
Oh, soundproofing. Do they really feel like they're at their own home, or do they feel sometimes like an apartment where you can hear everybody moving and walking and talking?
Yeah, the soundproofing, we really take pretty extreme steps to make it as quiet as we can. We can't guarantee that it's silent by any means. It's just impossible with construction. But, we are doing double walls between homes laterally with air spaces in between. Honestly, I don't recall ever hearing a complaint that they can hear their neighbor next to them. Up and down is more challenging just because of impact noises. But we do 2-foot webbed trusses between floors. We blow it full of insulation. We use a sound channel on the bottom side of the truss before you attach any drywall. And then we're putting what's called Acoustamat, which is a rubber pad on the upper side of the assembly with gypcrete that's poured over it. So it's about as quiet as you can make a wood structure.
And then in terms of age, there is an age restriction?
Yeah, so we have to follow one of the fair housing laws. So we typically are using the 55 and over fair housing law that restricts the community to 55 and over.
Thank you, Ms. Phil. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. Again, since this is new for us, I don't think I saw this covered in any of the materials. You keep referring to co-op and a board, but then I also heard the property management company. So is there like an HOA board of volunteers, people who live in the community who are making some of these decisions or controlling the wait list, or is that something that's all governed by a property management type company?
So yes, once the community is completed and people move in and get settled, several months after they move in, there'll be an election of a 5-member board of directors, which are the members and residents of the community. So they'll elect their own board and they will govern their community, which means they'll have regular board meetings. They'll make decisions if they want to make improvements to the property. That doesn't mean they have to manage the day-to-day operations of the community itself. So there'd be a property management company that would work with the board and manage the community for them. They basically will work at the board's direction.
Okay. Since this isn't your first rodeo, HOA boards have a special reputation in some states and in some communities, and I currently serve as the president of my HOA board, so I'm not exempt from the criticisms that I sometimes hear. So is there some sort of boundary that because this is such a managed, unique situation, are there sort of boundaries that your HOA, for lack of a better word, your board, your executive board, that you have so that to keep the peace?
Yeah.
We want this to be a happy place. Leewood is a happy place.
Yeah,
this is a unique situation.
Sure, yep, and we've been doing it for a long time, so we've got a very good baseline of governing documents, the bylaws and other governing documents that really, restrict the board's ability to do things without an overall vote of all of the members. So, they do run the day-to-day, they govern the community, but there are some restrictions. And, in our experience, we haven't had really any terrible boards where they've made any drastic bad decisions. There is also a lender involved in the project, so they have limitations on what a board can and can't do. So there's
Okay.
some things that have required lender approval.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Sir, I've got a couple of questions for you. I mean, I will say, and this you may or may not know, but as a matter of strategic planning here in Leawood, we've been looking for ways to accommodate our seniors who have lived here for years, are willing to trade in their big house but want to continue to live in Leawood. And you seem to be providing an opportunity that we've been looking for. So that's all very positive. The finances are still a bit of a mystery to me. So I guess I think the best way to ask this question, maybe it is looking back historically, but back in 2008, when things were going crazy in a downward way, you're still guaranteed, or you said you didn't guarantee, but you're still anticipating 3% increase in value per year for your shares. Who's bearing the risk of that 3% per year? I mean, as you say, you can't guarantee that the market's going to support that kind of an increase.
Yeah, so the 3% increase in share values, again, is controlled by the bylaws. We developed these communities right through 2008, 2010, 2011. We were kind of developing across the whole state of Iowa at that point in time, but also in other locations. They were successful communities, so they've been tested by, I guess, what I would consider the worst housing market in our lifetime. Let's hope anyways. And it's not guaranteed. The 3% is a transfer value that's controlled by the bylaws, but there has to be a buyer to buy it. Now, I'm going to think 99% of the times they're going to transfer at that share value. Has there been some instances where maybe they transferred for less? I know of a couple. Just one person had a pet that did some damage to the home, and the new buyer said, I want all new flooring, I want this, I want that fixed. And they reduced the share value to compensate for a repair, but that's rare. Usually they're gonna transfer at that value.
But as a general matter, and again, looking at 2008 through 2010, there was a market for these shares, even though the economy was going one direction. Under the bylaws and whatnot, the 3% increases were generally holding.
That's correct.
Interesting. Now, am I correct in understanding then that not every share, the value of a share is dictated by the size of the home that represents that share? So not all the shares in a building will be valued at the same value. Is that right?
That is correct. There's 59 homes. There's probably, I'm going to say there's 59 different share values. There might be some same floor plan homes on the same floor, so they might have this. There might be a couple with the same value, but they're all adjusted for the size and which floor they're on. So there's generally, let's call it 59 units. There's going to be 59 different share values, and then those values, will adjust at the controlled 3%.
And back to the question, I don't think I gave you an opportunity to answer part of my question there in terms of who bears the risk. Really, the share owner bears the risk of something going sideways with respect to this increase in valuation, correct?
That's correct. Whoever owns the share bears the risk for reselling it. Now, there's a system in place to hopefully make that happen quickly for them, but they're the equity owners of the share. They would bear the risk if, for some reason, the shares values went down.
And I think early in your presentation, you talked about there being or maybe it was Ms. Kane talked about there being an annual maintenance fee or a regular maintenance fee in addition to the purchase price of a share. I assume that maintenance fee is determined by once the thing gets going, by the board of directors of the co-op?
Yes, that's correct. There's a monthly carrying charge or maintenance fee that each home or member, shareholder in the cooperative pays, and then they approve their budget every year. So it's controlled by the people who live there. One of the beautiful things about the cooperative is it's owned by the people that live there. It's their community, it's their property. The only reason they're gonna have an increase in their carrying charges is if kind of the variable costs, taxes and insurance costs were to go up, they might have to make an adjustment. In general, those maintenance fees on most of our communities, or all of them, is probably averages an increase of maybe 1% per year. So it's pretty nominal, and that's one of the reasons long-term the cooperative stays pretty affordable and the wait list grows is, you know, they're going to probably not outpace inflation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Kane?
Yes, if the monthly charge, I'm trying to figure out the math in my head. If the monthly charges, give or take, are $2,000 a month, and there's 56 units, that's $112,000. And you said there's 3 staff, full-time staff, that live in that facility? So you're paying at least 3 people out of that 112, plus whatever it is that they need to do?
It's a monthly maintenance fee. So let's just say on average their budget's $1 million a year for all of the staff, costs, utilities, taxes, insurance.
So it's $1 million divided by 56. Anybody?
Yeah, correct. So it's
2,000
$2,000 a month.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not a year, a month.
Yeah, no, I know. So, but if you, oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry. And then my last question, thank you, is 135 is a beautiful development, and I know those villas that are going up are being built by Lambie Homes, and those are, they said they're coming in, at first they said 6s and 7s and 8s, and they're coming more in the millions range. So is your building, which again, I welcome, and I welcome having another option in Leawood, especially because you're tried and true at what you're doing here. But is it going to look like everybody else is in Shawnee and Kansas City, Missouri, or are you going to try to be reflective of the 135, and so it looks more like you're part of the development and not coming in at the, at this stage, which is what you are?
Yeah, and we are definitely making some adjustments to the finishes on the building, finishes on the interior to reflect the location of the community and what's around it.
Because we take pride in being Leawood, and we are different.
Yes.
So than some of those other cities you mentioned, and that's a good thing to us, right? So, and I would think
Yes.
your clients would expect that or want that.
Yes, that's very
I
true.
would expect it. The 135 would really expect that you're not going to come in and ours is not going to look exactly like everybody else.
No, it will not. We make adjustments based on the market to make sure it's appropriate for the location we're developing it.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Ms. Gayed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned briefly, you spoke about the unit mix a little bit, so it ranges from, did you say 1 bedroom to 2 with a den? So the 2 with the den is the largest,
That's correct.
and that's the 1,700?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact square footage, but somewhere around 1,600 to 1,700 square feet, I think, is the largest one we have.
Great. And then the one that opened near the Target that you mentioned, when did that one open?
People started moving in there, I think it was the end of July, first
Okay.
occupancy started.
And that's, so the term that comes to my head is a lease up, but that's not exactly right, but similar. How's that going with that one?
Yeah, so we pre-sell homes, so we typically want about half of them pre-sold before we break ground.
Wow. Okay.
It kind of just assures us as a developer, it's low risk. If we can pre-sell 50% of them, we've never had a problem selling the other 50% while it's under construction. So the Olathe community, the Verona Hills community, the Overland Park community were sold out the day we opened the doors with a wait list.
Wow.
We like to build smaller communities. A lot of people say, why don't you build 200 units? We like to build smaller communities because 50 to 65 homes seems to be a really good mix. People know their neighbors. It's not a huge, massive community. It's I don't know, a little quaint, and you know all your neighbors. So it's kind of that's the size we like to develop. We'd rather do a smaller number of units and have a healthy wait list for the long-term viability of the cooperative to ensure it stays successful long-term.
Great. Thank you.
I think you'll find that we're very supportive of smaller communities as well. So, Ms. Gayed, anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Sipple.
One more question, and this is more for staff. There was one of the covenants in the agreement has to do with burying the utilities along 135th Street, and there's a ceiling as to what will be paid by the developer at $500,000. Do you have an estimate of what the total will be and who pays the amount over 500,000?
Actually, that might be a better question for Public Works, as far as Dave would probably know that it costs a lot more than I would. But yes, there is a cap as far as 500,000. If you recall, when they originally came in, they were going to bury all the utilities along 135th Street, but then they came back through the process, and that stipulation was kind of implemented. So.
Okay. I'd be interested in knowing what the estimate is and how much the city's going to be obligated to pay.
Mr. Lay is making an appearance at the appropriate time. Mr. Lay.
Well, thank you. So the question was the estimated cost for that?
The total cost, Lashbrook is going to pay 500, and so what would be the remaining amount to be paid by the city?
So we believe the total estimate is going to be a little bit over $1 million.
So it's another $500,000.
Yeah, over $500,000 would be the city's responsibility.
Okay. All right. Would that be bonded?
Oh, that's yet to be decided. More than likely, that's what we've done in the past.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Larson. I think you may still be on mute, Mary.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. I have really enjoyed listening to this conversation. There have been some really excellent questions, and I appreciate the developers' answers. I think that this is going to be a really well-received product in Leawood. I'm excited about it, especially that this is a company that this is not their first rodeo, which someone mentioned earlier, and I find comfort in their continued success and their reputation. I like the fact that it's a 55 and up community. I think that there's a real need for that in Leawood. And I also, the thing that my favorite part about this new offering is the ownership aspect with the selling of the shares. That's really important to me for residents of Leawood to be invested in our community. And I take comfort in the fact that the residents in this offering will be invested in our community and will live there for a number of years. And I support this development, and I plan to vote for it. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Appreciate it. Any other questions for either staff or the applicant?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Ms. Villa. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Additional discussion concerning case number, I've lost track of it, 89-23. If not, this is an ordinance which requires a roll call. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Castor?
Aye.
Councilmember Kane?
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison?
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel?
Aye.
Councilmember Guyad?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Councilmember Sunkel?
Aye.
Councilmember Phila?
Aye.
Thank you. I have that as a unanimous vote, and case number 89-23 is approved. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your standing for questions. As you can tell, there's a great deal of interest on the City Council for the product you're about to deliver to us, so we'll look forward to your success.
Thank you.
That takes us to new business. Now call the ordinance establishing a common consumption area and authorizing the possession and consumption of alcoholic liquor within its boundaries at Ranch Mart North CCA. Is the applicant wish to be heard here?
I don't believe the applicant is present tonight, but I can answer.
If staff wish to be heard.
This is our second application for a common consumption area in the city of Leawood. The first one was approved just about 4.5 years ago for Park Place. And what a common consumption area allows an applicant to do is to have an area outside of their premise where patrons can take alcoholic beverages into this common consumption area. So for instance, in Park Place, you could be at multiple residents but have your alcohol, in their little courtyard area together. The areas are painted on the ground, the boundaries, so that you can't go beyond the painted line with alcohol, and there's also signage at the entry and exit points. The applicant is proposing to have the common consumption area open daily between noon and 10 p.m. And currently, the two restaurants in this development that would be able to apply to the state for participation in the common consumption area, if the governing body approves it, is Meat Mitch Barbecue and Billy's Grocery.
Move to approve?
Motion to approve from Ms. Phila.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Sunkel. Discussion concerning the ordinance establishing a common consumption area at Ranch Mart. Mr. Sipple.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, Stephen. The businesses already have a liquor license.
Correct.
And they have to stay inside to consume the liquor.
Currently.
You mentioned that they have to reapply to the state to get a CCA license?
Each drinking establishment would need to seek permission from the state Alcoholic Beverage Control Division to participate in a common consumption area.
And then just another question, since the police chief is here, do we ever have any problems with CCA areas in Park Place? With people abusing the boundaries of the consumption area?
Sir, not that I'm aware of. Okay. We haven't received any complaints specifically in those areas.
Okay. That makes me feel better. Thank
Ms.
you very
Harrison.
much.
Thank you. The Park Place area I'm thinking of is that Berkeley Square where they have concerts and ice skating and bocce and all the things.
Right.
Is this area, I don't get up north very often. Don't say that to her. I know. I don't know how big of an area this between Meat Mitch and Homegrown is. Is it a venue where there will be concerts, or is it just really patio?
It's primarily patio. They also have an area of artificial turf.
Yes.
A food truck plaza. And they do intend to have live music from time to time, but would go through the planning department for any necessary permits to do any type of live music within the area. The boundary that's shown on the map in the packet appears to be the area is completely consolidated within alleyways and walkways, surrounded for the most part by the adjacent buildings. So I think it would be pretty well contained within the walkways of that development.
Out in the parking lot if you're not there.
Correct.
Well, right, that we're not going to suddenly find out they're having parking lot parties is kind of my worry, that the neighbors then suddenly would be kind of like,
No, they're almost completely surrounded by.
yeah. Okay.
Cure is kind of on the north side, and then the cemetery is on the south side, and then you've got other building, the bank to the east.
Yeah, I believe there's a shoe store and a math tutoring space in that development too. So.
And I have to note, just from, without having measured it, having seen it, it's roughly the same size or maybe even a little less than the Park Place area.
Oh,
It's really relatively small.
Yeah. Good, okay, that's, good.
Additional questions around the CCA? If not, do I hear a motion? Oh, thank you. We have a motion and a second pending. My apologies. First night, we go to 10 o'clock. That shows great leadership by your new mayor. Any additional discussion concerning the ordinance establishing a common consumption area around Ranch Mart? If not, it is an ordinance, and we'll ask the clerk to call the roll one last time this evening.
Councilmember Phila.
Aye.
Councilmember Sunkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Larson.
Aye.
Councilmember Guyad.
Aye.
Councilmember Sipple. Councilmember Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Kane.
Aye.
Councilmember Castor.
Aye. I show a unanimous vote approving the ordinance establishing a common consumption area for Ranch Mart North. And with that, the ordinance is approved. Takes us to upcoming meetings. I will just, we'll be having a conversation, I think, with our city attorney as well as the staff and the council concerning whether in the future we need to actually take action to approve upcoming meetings that are set for the standard time and place and hour. But as a result of what we've been doing for a number of years, we'll go ahead this evening. Is there a motion to approve scheduling a governing body regular meeting on Tuesday, January 16th at 7 p.m. to be followed immediately by a governing body meeting of the land bank, which I need to find out more about what this land bank is about in the next 2 weeks. So,
Mayor Elkins, if I may,
Yes.
those two meetings were approved on the December 18th council
I'm sorry.
agenda.
All right, very good.
So we
Then
don't
we
have
don't need to
any
approve
new
them
ones to
tonight.
approve tonight.
We'll just note, yeah, that's good. We'll just note that we have 2 meetings coming up on the 16th, and hopefully I'll be educated about a land bank between now and then. I'll
And
look
that's
to-
a Tuesday.
I'll look to staff to help. It is
Because of
Tuesday,
MLK.
as January is the month for Tuesday meetings for us.
Yep.
So, any additional business to come before the governing body this evening? If not, we will, my thanks to everyone for a little bit of a lengthy meeting and for what's a once in a 2 decades or once in a quarter century meeting. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. So with that, we'll stand adjourned and we'll see you on January 16th.
Thank you.